Madam Secretary, I'm going to say it again, you're a lot smarter than me. But my mama didn't raise a fool, and if she did, it was one of my brothers. And what you're doing, you know it and I know it, and all those people sitting behind you know it. You're paying 5% to borrow money when you could pay 4% to borrow money. You announced you were going to do that back in November 2023. You're working cross purposes with Jay Powell, who's
We're not working.
And the reason you're doing this, is try to give the economy a sugar high 5 months before an election. Now, you know that, and I know that.
There's nothing about issuing short-term debt that creates a sugar high for the economy.
My chairman says I'm out of time. It's good to see you.
Hey everyone, hope you're doing well on this beautiful Wednesday. As you can see, we're potentially going to get a sugar high as we get liquidity from the Federal Reserve and Treasury in order to support the election period going into November. So that's going to be very important. Now, is this going to happen? Well, that remains to be seen, but there is some economic data that I have been looking at that suggests that we are going to get some liquidity, and we're actually getting some liquidity right now. And that's not necessarily a good sign. It's a sign that we are potentially going to get a recession, but I'll leave that for another video. Now, taking a look at ICP, I took a look at my YouTube metrics, and I see that a lot of you are very interested in this protocol. And I think there is a lot of interesting things that Internet Computer Protocol is coming out with, and I think it'll do well during this cycle, especially during the second half. Now, if we take a look at the chart, this is the daily, and the last time I left off with you, I had done an update on Sunday, which is this candle right here, and I said that I had changed from being neutral to bearish to neutral, and now I'm a little more bullish. I'm still neutral because we are within this larger triangle formation, and we are hitting resistance, as you can tell. And it's interesting that you can actually, do technical analysis where you can draw out these patterns, and they do fairly well, especially on the larger time frames, and they do well on the lower time frames as well. But you could always have that external factor where price action is not going to follow technical analysis, so it's important to be aware of that. Now, the reason for this price action is because Bitcoin has been doing very well. So I just wanted to take a look at this chart just so you understand why we're getting some good price action in ICP. So currently we are in a bull flag formation, and we are in a downward trend in this parallel channel, which is the flag. And this is a very bullish pattern. And if I take away some of the lines here so you can see better, you can see that we have a potential price target for Bitcoin at around $107,000. It may take us a while to get up there, but I think we will. And I think Bitcoin's going to go a lot higher for the cycle as well, especially when we do get that sugar high from all that liquidity that is potentially going to be dumped into the market later this summer and going into the fall. Now, that is not a guarantee, of course. There's a lot of factors that go into that, and we're relying on human beings in order to make this decision, and we don't know if they're going to do that decision. And I can't say whether that's right or wrong because I am not a Federal Reservist, although I do think they make a lot of mistakes. So there's some other confluence here that shows that we have bullish price action on Bitcoin, and we do have a head and shoulders that did play out. So I can go ahead and draw that on here, and you can see that we have the left shoulder, the head, a right shoulder, and it did play out. It did not get to its full target, so it would be the measured move from the top of the head or the bottom of the head here to the neckline. We're upside down, and that would have been 74,000, but we hit resistance at this supply and upper parallel channel resistance line, and that is in confluence with a volume node as well. So we do have some work in order to break out, but once we do and we confirm this resistance, I think we're going to go much higher from here. So going back to ICP, we do have some bullish factors that are occurring for us. Now, the one thing I didn't say on the Bitcoin chart was that we had a bullish cross or a golden cross on all of the simple moving averages, which means we're above the 20, 50, 100, and 200. And that is a very bullish confirming factor for Bitcoin. However, we are still hitting resistance or we just bounced off resistance on the 200-day simple moving average for ICP. And we are just peaking out of the 200-day, which is below the 50 and the 100. So we do have some work to do in order to become really bullish again. And we do have a volume node at around 12.8, and that is in conjunction with the 50-day simple moving average. And I would suggest that's probably going to be some resistance right there. Now, if we go ahead and put back our lines again, we are in that larger descending or falling wedge, which is a triangle formation as well. And we have hit these 3 points. And as you can see at this third point, it did act as resistance. And that's probably also acting in confluence with the 50-day and this volume node as well. Now, we do have some other structures that are in here that played out and one that is forming as well. And I'll clear up the lines here to show you that here a little more clear. We did have a falling wedge, which played out. We made it about halfway and hit resistance. Again, that was at that triangle formation upper line and in confluence with this 50 simple moving average. So that was resistance, and that formed the bottom of the neckline, or formed in confluence with the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders. And now we're forming this right shoulder. Now, this 50-day is going to be resistance for us. I don't know how this formation is going to play out over the next couple of days. As long as Bitcoin is positive, and if it does break out of that upper parallel channel, this is for Bitcoin, this is going to skyrocket. I guarantee it. So we do have that 100-day as well, and that is in confluence with the neckline of the inverse head and shoulders as well. And we do have some volume here as confluence to all of this right now. So we do have some work to do, but I am a lot more bullish. I would take a small position here, probably 1/3, just in case we do have some sort of strange external factor that causes us to dump. There is not a lot of resistance to the downside if we have an issue. So if we do have an issue, we're going to come down to this level here, which is between 10.5 or 10.7 to $10. And there is support here, but we'll be below the 200-day simple moving average. If we go below that, the last line of defense is probably going to be this volume node right here at about $9.50. And if we lose that, we're going to go all the way, we're going to go lower. And I know that might be hard to believe, but that has happened with some of the other coins that I've been interested in. And it absolutely happened to Kujira. So I had a very small position, very small. And it dumped. And you can see this head and shoulders pattern. We broke through this neckline. We broke through the 200-day, and it was free fall all the way down to this area right here, which is an area of demand, and it broke through that. Now, I'm not comparing Kujira to ICP. I'm just saying, according to the chart, we're not out of the woods yet when it comes to ICP. The other thing that I want to show you is I have the Fibonacci chart on here for the last uptrend, and we did come all the way down to the golden pocket and came below it. And that was where I was getting a little bit nervous with this coin and the chart, but we did hit resistance at the 0.786. It bounced up, and now we're above the golden pocket and above the localized point of control. So these are all good things. The next step is to break out of this descending triangle, set it as resistance amongst the golden pocket and this localized point of control, and we'll go high from here. Now, this price action potentially is going to set you up for a good trade. And what I would do is I would wait for a breakout. You're probably going to get resistance at the 50 simple moving average, which is in confluence with this volume node. And I'd wait for the retest. Now, as far as potential for where the price might go from here, I'm going to go ahead and put a fib. And you can see that the simple moving average with this volume node and this golden pocket, or the 0.618, are all going to be potential resistance. So you're probably going to get resistance somewhere around here. So I would not trade the breakout. Wait for a retest, which is going to be confluence with the downward resistance line set up as support. And it's also in confluence with the volume node here, or the localized point of control. And once you get a bounce off of that, I would go and take the trade. And that's probably going to go up to around the $13.50 range, which is in confluence with this supply zone and volume node right here. And you're also going to have a simple moving average here that's going to be acting, which is the 100-day. And that would set you up for potentially a good trade, which could potentially net you about 11%. So that's not insignificant. There is a volume node here that may act as resistance as well, coming back up. And it really all depends on how well the broader market is proceeding. But you do also have a V formation here. We do have some very good curvature here, and that suggests an Adam and Eve formation, or pattern, if you would like to call it that. And that is a bullish formation, and that's actually a inverse Adam and Eve. And that usually breaks out to the upside. It's usually a reversal pattern. Now, as always, I would suggest that you use proper risk management. For this, you could use a 1 to 1.5. Now, again, we need to see where this breaks and retests in order to do this properly. But it's probably going to be in conjunction with the localized point of control. And I usually have my stop loss at the last area of resistance here, or support, which is at about $11.60. However, you should know by now that there are stop loss hunters with lots of liquidity to wipe people out and wipe out those stop losses. And I would have it a little bit lower. And you're probably going to go for about a 1 to 1.5, which would make sense here in the fact that we do have a volume node around here. So it'd probably break out to up to about $13. You may get some resistance just prior to the $13 mark. And that would be a good play right there. Now, if you want to increase your risk to reward here, in the sense that you want to reduce your downside risk, I would be waiting for the golden cross of all of these simple moving averages, where the 200 is above the 50 is above the 100, and the 100 is above the 200-day simple moving averages. That's going to be your cue that you are on the right side of this trade and that we have more upside. But that's totally up to you. When that does occur, the price will be a lot higher. But if we look at past or previous price action, we have already gone up to $21, and I would think that we would go back up there. So we have some pretty good price action on the daily. I like this inverse curvature, which again, this is suggesting a inverse Adam and Eve formation if it continues to proceed up to about $13.80. So this is all good for ICP. Now, taking a look at our oscillators, we do have market cipher here. We did print a green dot, which is bullish. However, we are still in the red when it comes to money flow on the daily. So ideally, before you make a trade, you would also want to be in the green, and that would provide confluence with all of the charting that we just did on ICP. If we take a look at the stochastic RSI, we did have a crossover to the upside, so that confirms momentum is to the upside. The RSI is beginning to rise above 50, though we got resistance at about 49.35. But once we breach that, I expect momentum to follow through. And as you can see, we did have a breach on the downward trend of the money flow index, but we are still below 50 at around 39. And then taking a look at the MACD, we did print some bullish momentum with these two green histogram bars, and we did have a crossover. So those are all good things in favor of higher price action for ICP. Taking a look at the 4-hour, we can get some better, finer detail on the price action. As you can see, we did print a 9 on the trend reversal indicator, where the 8 basically was at the resistance line of the larger triangle formation. We are above a demand zone in confluence with the localized point of control, and that's consistent with the larger daily time frame. Taking a look at the 1-hour, the last time I did an update in ICP, I'd stated that we have had consolidation since about May 7th, in which the lagging span of the Ichimoku was basically weaving in and out of the price action. We finally have broken out of that. Price action was free and clear. We did come back down a little bit back into the price action, but again, the lagging span is free. If you were in a long at the bottom here somehow, this is when you would probably be thinking about selling on a short-term trading basis. However, we did have the price action come down towards the cloud. We are on the positive side, by the way, and it acted as resistance in confluence with this demand zone and a node forming. So there are some buyers at the $12.23, which is a good sign. Not a whole lot, but it is something. And it is bouncing off of this area, which is a good sign. It's probably going to end up testing around this area. Again, the resistance portion of the triangle formation that we are in. But these are all good positive signs to the upside. Is it strong? No, I don't think so. Not yet. Going throughout the afternoon, this Wednesday, we have decreasing volume. And so what may end up occurring is that we continue to consolidate, maybe even come down a little bit to retest this demand zone before we do have a breakout. And a lot of that will have to do with, unfortunately, the traditional markets. NVIDIA did reach an all-time high, a new all-time high of 1,200, which is pretty crazy. The market's getting a little frothy in that sense, especially when it comes to tech, and that has me nervous because tech has gone through a parabolic rise, and when tech dumps at some point, I don't think it's going to be a whole lot, but there's going to be a point where there are going to be sellers, and crypto will be a part of that since it is tech related, and ICP will definitely follow that. But I don't think we're going to have too much of an issue. If it does dump, I don't think it's going to get any lower than this area right here. So I am positive on ICP. I am in a position, just for full disclosure, and I do think ICP will do well in the next few months. All right, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or you want me to take a look at a different chart or coin, please let me know. Thanks. Bye.